36-year-old Tracy Erbs-Leben is the eldest of the Four Waters children. She claims she was beaten by her father 4 times a week until she left home. She broke down as she related instances of the abuse she suffered at the hands of Cess Waters. According to Tracy, the abuse wasn't just physical. When she was 14, she says her father took her to King's Cross, where photographs were taken of her naked. She says he made her get up at 2:30 every morning to do her chores, and he constantly told her that when he held her in his arms as a baby, he felt like dropping her on a concrete floor. Tracy's brother Dean is charged with murdering his stepmother's lover Alan Hall. As Tracy told of her life, he too began weeping. When asked how she would describe her brother's nature, Tracy replied, "He was one of the most gentle people you could ever hope to meet." Dean Waters has admitted he shot Alan Hall 9 years ago, but says he was under the control of his father. Also giving evidence today was Dean's brother Guy, a former Australian and Commonwealth middleweight champion. When asked by Justice Hume why he feared his father, given his ability to defend himself, he replied, "I guess it was just a fear instilled in us since we were children."
Restoration work on land near Singleton is helping to hold back a tide of degradation on the Hunter River. The catchment, called Wattle Ponds, has suffered years of erosion from overgrazing and clearing, which has had far-reaching effects.
The close proximity to the Hunter River meant that there was a large amount of erosion from here and further up through the catchment moving directly into the Hunter River, so that it contributed also to the harbour silting problem.
It became so bad that the Singleton Landcare Group was spurred into action.
This was a highly visible area. People have been driving past here for years and have always thought how badly eroded it was.
With the help of the Land and Water Conservation Department and Singleton Council, the $80,000 rehabilitation project came into being. Mr Mignonelli says it's a great demonstration site for what can be achieved with limited funds.
That's pretty small dollars for the return we're going to get, which is long-term stability of a site which has historically been a badly eroded area.
So far, earthworks called detention structures have been built to slow floodwaters and stop the movement of soil during heavy rain. Stage 2 will see the eroded hillsides graded and planted with 2,000 native pastures, shrubs and trees. This will help prevent phosphorus, which causes blue-green algae outbreaks, from being washed into the river, which in turn will improve water quality. Simone Cobb, NBN News.
Four men were killed last November when they drilled into an old water-filled shaft at Gretley Colliery, the men drowning under a wall of water. The inquiry into that disaster resumed today after a 3-week break. David Kirby QC questioned the safety of the legal requirement of just 50 metres between coal cutting and old water-filled shafts. Gretley allowed 50 metres, but the maps were wrong and the crew cut into the wall, releasing 25 megalitres of water. Mr Kirby cited safety textbooks that recommended distances from 70 metres to 200 metres, 4 times the New South Wales standard. He said, "Isn't it imprudent to rely on the legislative minimum?" A mine manager at Gretley in 1993, John Parler, replied with a question of his own, doubting the relevance of the material supplied by the council assisting. Mr Parler said he would have done exactly the same as the mine manager at the time of the disaster, Richard Porteous. Mr Kirby used that reply as an example of why issues like mine safety should be given to a team rather than an individual. Mr Parler said, "No, I don't agree with that." The inquiry will continue tomorrow and run through to its conclusion in September. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
A man armed with a pistol walked into the building shortly after opening time and demanded money from a teller.
A similar description of what we've had in a number of other hold-ups that have occurred in the Newcastle area recently. He's a male person, 30 to 35 years of age, 180 centimetres tall, of solid build, wearing a dark jacket, blue jeans, baseball cap, sunglasses and white joggers.
Police have confirmed that a moderate amount of money was stolen. The hold-up was recorded on a security camera. The man left in a car believed to be a silvery beige Mitsubishi Cordia, the number plate obscured by electrical tape. The armed hold-up this morning is the latest in a string of bank robberies in the area. Only last week, an armed man entered the National Australia Bank here at Warners Bay and demanded money. Police say 2 bandits are operating independently in the area, believed to be responsible for more than 20 armed robberies. Antonia Kidman, NBN News. Glenda Pointer was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder 2 years ago. Both her teenage sons and her husband also have the disorder.
You find if both parents have got it, you seem to have the more severe ADD, the violence, the aggression, the really conduct disorder and oppositional defiance children.
There is strong evidence to suggest the illness does run in families. An immaturity in the front lobe of the brain, which creates a chemical imbalance, is what causes the disorder. How the illness manifests varies between sufferers. However, it is classified as one of the most disruptive disorders of childhood and adolescence.
On his 14th birthday, he was arrested for arson and break and enter, and that was very, very difficult to deal with, him being treated like a criminal.
But the experts warn against attributing all antisocial and disruptive behaviour to the illness. A 2-day symposium in Newcastle, beginning on Friday, will be presented by the Hunter Institute of Mental Health to provide information and advice for those affected by the disorder. Antonia Kidman, NBN News.
The ad boasts a free weekend in Orange for Australia's best fitter machinist. The response? Overwhelming. It's an offer some can't refuse. The idea is to let people see Orange for themselves.
Pay all the expenses, the fuel costs and so forth for these people to drive up to Orange, their accommodation and their meals for the weekend, and we just show them around, show them the facility here, introduce them to some of the people that already work for us.
Lovick Engineering had unsuccessfully tried to fill the positions for the past 12 months. It's hoped that the new advertising campaign, aided by DEET, the CES and a local advertising company, will have the positions filled within the next 3 weeks.
A couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, if we can start to look at the first of the starters, and like I say, between the two companies, Lovick Engineering and Jomar Engineering, there are about 6 positions available.
The positions require specially skilled tradespeople, hard to find in the local area. The decision to advertise in Newcastle and Wollongong came only after exhausting all other options.
The recent BHP decision and so forth, and we're looking for those areas because we feel that there'll be a surplus of those qualified people available.
Lovick Engineering are also seeking 2 suitable applicants for apprenticeships next year. Leah Slattery, Win News.
Gordon Romage underwent a knee operation 2 years ago.
I was anxious. I did see an operation 10 years ago and it was very brutal.
He is one of the patients featured in the educational video.
If I had have seen the complete video that we're seeing here now, it would have allayed a lot of my fears.
The video is the joint venture of the Royal Newcastle, Lingard and Warners Bay private hospitals. It aims to prepare people both mentally and physically for knee replacement surgery, one of the biggest orthopaedic procedures.
Knee replacement and hip replacement becoming increasingly common because we have an ageing population in Australia.
It will also become an important tool for patients who live in remote areas and may not have access to preoperative clinics. Already plans to make similar videos for other surgical procedures are underway.
Already embarking upon the hip replacement video, and we will certainly be looking at shoulder and back surgery in the near future.
Antonia Kidman, NBN News.
When the Australian equestrian team clinched back-to-back gold at the last two Olympics, it fuelled the dreams of thousands of young riders throughout the country. Keen to follow in their footsteps, they're saddling up to hone their skills at the place that's nurtured champions. Twice a year, 15 young men and women from all over Australia come to the Equestrian Centre for an intensive 6-month instructors course.
I'm here because I want to learn how to ride properly, and I really don't think that there's anywhere else to learn.
That means gruelling 18-hour days, with students learning all aspects of horse management, as well as dressage, cross-country and show jumping. 18-year-old Shay Tidswell from Western Australia has graduated from the course. Now she's teaching the new recruits and training hard to realise a dream.
I'm hoping to go to the Olympics and represent this Aboriginal Australia, especially in the world of eventing.
The centre's coach and manager Heath Ryan says the course is geared at recognising talent and fine-tuning skills, and he's clear about what he wants to achieve.
Definitely wanting to produce riders and personalities that are going to pioneer the Australian equestrian world to heights that have never been seen anywhere in the world.
Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
Two employees of a nearby panel shop were test driving the XJS Jaguar on Wakefield Road, checking for wind noise, when the car went out of control on a curve, spinning into a tree. The passenger escaped uninjured, but the driver, 29-year-old Stephen Morton, was trapped by the legs. The heavy construction of the Jaguar presenting the police rescue squad with a challenge that lasted almost 2 hours. Assisted by the fire brigade, they cut and prized metal away, paramedics monitoring the condition of the young man as his concerned parents watched. Eventually, a combination of experience and patience won through, paramedics checking for any signs of crush syndrome as their patient was freed. He has 2 broken legs, but the outcome could easily have been far worse. Meanwhile, a 53-year-old woman was seriously injured in a head-on collision at Mount Vincent near Mulbring last night. She was driving her late-model Commodore wagon north along Main Road when she drifted into the path of another Commodore. The Cessnock Rescue Squad battled for more than an hour to free the drivers, the woman suffering head injuries and a fractured arm, the driver of the other Commodore a fractured ankle. Miraculously, the woman's 4-year-old granddaughter, who was also in the car, was unhurt. Police believe the woman may have been distracted by nearby roadworks. Jim Sullivan, NBN News.
The plan for the Cove is to transform the harbour area west of Merewether Street using floating pontoons able to berth 13 craft. The cost of construction of the project, central to the Honeysuckle plan, is estimated at around $3.6 million. Council says concerns over water quality and soil contamination are being addressed through an environmental management plan.
By approving the DA gives the signal to the Honeysuckle Corporation that they need to then get on and do the detail work to ensure that the site is developed in an environmentally acceptable way.
Meanwhile, the controversial Honeysuckle Hotel saga is in limbo as developers await the draft regional environmental plan, due for release by the end of the month. The document should clarify various development controls, then it's up to the State Planning Minister to consider any subsequent development applications.
If a development application is submitted, he will be calling a public inquiry, which again is giving the community every opportunity to test that design. That's something that he's decided to take on.
Another proposal before Council is on the corner of Scott and Pacific Streets, a 6-storey mixed commercial and residential building with ground floor shops. Located within a heritage conservation area, the $3 million development has raised design and height concerns. And the $20 million upgrade of the Western Suburbs Leagues Club and Motel is expected to be given the all-clear. The 3-level refurbishment includes new gaming lounge and bars, gymnasium, restaurants and administration area, as well as 79 motel suites, underground car parking area and extensive landscaping.
Bo Emerton was nothing short of outstanding in the US Open final. In front of 50,000 fans, the 22-year-old from Foster on the mid-north coast peaked in the decider. His careful selection of waves rewarded, his style faultless. Also showing his best was the man who's been there so many times before, Kelly Slater. Opening his account with a ride of 8.33 out of 10, the American led early, showing all of the flair that's won him 4 world titles. The other finalists were not far away. Victor Ribas flew the Brazilian flag, while Nathan Webster tried gallantly to bridge the gap on his Aussie compatriot. But it proved to be Emerton's day. Riding only the mandatory 4 scoring waves, the Australian earned 28.93, beating Slater by a mere half a point. The result takes the New South Welshman to the top of the World Qualifying Series ratings. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
I'll be dependent on welfare, and so too will my child.
Don't you know that universities are government-funded institutions? Although not much longer if I have my way.
My family since I was 18 years old. Please, please have leniency.
You horrid, disrespectful young man. I cannot believe that you are actually suggesting that young people...
The last time West and Curry met in a final, it was a fiery result, and there's sure to be plenty of feeling tomorrow night. West have come good at the right end of the season, but captain coach Tony Price is wary of traditional rivals Curry, the team sharing the spoils this season.
They're a very good football team. They don't make many mistakes, so we need to minimise our mistakes and hopefully take advantage of any mistakes that they make.
There's added pressure for a win as it'll give the victor 2 bites of the cherry, whereas the loser will play a do-or-die clash next week. Most pundits believe the undefeated Lakes United outfit will make the grand final, so at least one of tomorrow night's finalists will miss out.
Lakes are a very good team. They've beaten us twice during the rounds, and there's no doubt that their form speaks for itself. They haven't lost a game all year, but it's the premiership's finished now, and it's all everyone's on the same level.
The game kicks off at 8:30 at Harker Oval. The elimination semi between South and Maitland will be played on Saturday night at Townsend Oval. Richard O'Leary, NBN News. Ben Melmoth, Scott McGregor and Ben Pepper were still leaping out of their skins today following this week's Under-23s World Championship win. Coach Sean Dennis hopes that winning feeling will spread through the rest of the team as it gears up for tomorrow night's vital clash against Canberra.
Really worked hard at trying to keep the 3 players up and using it to the team's advantage, but I guess tomorrow night will tell. But I feel good. It's been a good thing, and the players are really over the moon and they can't wait to get back into it.
But they won't be the only world champions on the court. Canberra players also starred in the historic win by the Australian Under-23 team.
And I'm sure it'll be a great battle. I'm sure Brendan Mann and Simon Dwight want to step back and do well as Ben Pepper, Ben Melmoth and Scott McGregor do. But having 5 world champions on the court plus the quality of imports and 2 teams that are desperate to get a win, it's just going to be a cracker game.
And it's a game the Falcons need to win if they're to make the finals. Newcastle is second last and needs to get the points in at least 7 of its last 10 games. But Canberra is just as hungry after losing its last 4 encounters. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
The Merriwa district has caught the eye of many an investor. Now a Newcastle company has bought up a large slice of the most productive country. Originally, Q Rural Enterprises snapped up 7 adjoining farms, supporting 2,500 breeding cattle and 10,000 merino wethers. That was just the beginning.
Q Rural have since looked at other country. At the moment they've exchanged contracts on some of it and there's others under negotiation.
It's estimated the company will add another 10,000 hectares to its holdings during the next few months, bringing its total investment to about $22 million. Despite the company's links with mining, it has assured local producers it plans to dedicate the land to cattle.
They're looking to run cattle, Angus cattle, breed Angus cows and breed Angus cattle and fatten them on the property.
There's also talk of a feedlot and plans to market the stock direct from the paddock. The Merriwa buy-up is not an isolated case. Other large corporations are buying family farms as well, changing the face of rural communities across Australia. 12 Merriwa families have sold their property so far. Only a handful have remained in the district.
In a small community, if you lose 10 or 12 families out of it, then it can have a very dramatic effect. We're hoping that the effect of this aggregation will be actually very minimal.
Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
BHP believes it can't make steel competitively in Newcastle, but Aussteel has big plans for the city. Chairman Clive Palmer met with member for Patterson Bob Baldwin and former head of Newcastle's BHP Steel Rob Chenery this afternoon to outline what his consortium has planned to provide 22,000 direct and indirect jobs.
We're looking at establishing at 3 million tonnes of production, which is far bigger than Newcastle currently produces, and we'd like to expand that over the next 15 years to 20 or 30 million tonnes of production.
Aussteel would achieve that by using electric arc furnace technology and utilising the resources of its sister company, Mineralogy, in Western Australia.
We will be mining magnetite iron ore, pelletising and producing hot briquetted iron that'll be shipped to Newcastle. And the plant in Newcastle will have the world's lowest cost feedstock, totally integrated in one corporate structure.
Newcastle is the front runner of 5 sites being considered by Aussteel for its billion-dollar plan, but to establish in the city, it needs government support.
Well, it's up to the Prime Minister and the Premier to have the political will to bring this project to Newcastle.
Rob Chenery believes Aussteel's proposal may be the saviour the city needs, and he says BHP may regret its move out of Newcastle.
BHP may well rue that day that they made the decisions.
If Aussteel gets the commitments it's seeking from both the state and federal governments, then the workers who leave these gates for the last time in the year 2000 may have jobs straight away with one of the world's most modern steelmaking facilities. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
The first day on the job for Gillian Myers-Britton, but there was no time to get settled in with her brief to reduce violence against women.
It's a huge amount of violence against women in domestic violence and sexual assault, but they're not the only areas of violence we'll be looking at.
Miss Myers-Britton has 15 years in the field, including the last 10 in the Hunter. She'll work out of the Newcastle Police Station, but is employed by the Attorney-General's Department as part of a state government program.
It's about identifying needs and gaps and issues, and sometimes it's just about getting services to talk to each other.
She's one of 17 coordinators to be appointed throughout the state to create regional policies to help prevent women being attacked, raped and stalked. Education and training are seen as the long-term solutions, but the first step will be to get the relevant services to work together. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Port Stephens has recognised the potential tourist value of the koala and believes they could be used in the same way as the area's dolphins.
We also think that ecotourism can work in the koala case. And if we can look after the habitat, preserve the habitat, we've got something sustainable for the generations to come.
The conference will focus on issues threatening koala populations.
Koala numbers are dwindling across Australia. We don't believe there's any decent legislation in place that says, this will stop koala habitats being damaged.
Antonia Kidman, NBN News.